They took a human hostage and realized why we are never helpless. The command deck of the Phyrexian warship Sovereign Claw hummed with anticipation. Captain Dryak's elongated fingers drummed against the arm of his command chair. 6 yellow eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. His scaled skin shimmered with iridescent greens and blues under the harsh lighting, the color shift betraying his excitement despite his composed posture. "Confirm scan results," he ordered, voice raspy and deliberate. Navigation Officer Zenthar swiveled in her seat, her own 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "Confirmed, Captain. Small research vessel, minimal defenses, 1 life form detected. Biologicals match human parameters." A collective murmur rippled through the bridge crew. Humans were rare in this sector, the disputed territory between Phyrexian space and the human coalition's outer colonies. Finding a lone human here was unexpected, possibly valuable. "Status of our cloaking systems?" Dryak inquired. "Functioning at optimal efficiency," replied Technos, the ship's engineering chief. His exoskeleton clicked softly as he shifted position. "They cannot detect our approach." Captain Dryak's mouthparts curved into what passed for a smile among his species. "Perfect. Prepare the tractor beam. I want this human brought aboard with minimal damage." Lieutenant Naz, the security officer, chittered nervously. "Captain, the protocols regarding human captives suggest extreme caution. Their diplomatic status is irrelevant in unclaimed space," Dryak interrupted. "This human is alone, far from coalition protection. By the time anyone notices their absence, we'll have extracted whatever intelligence they possess and departed." He rose from his chair, towering over his subordinates at nearly 7 feet tall. "Or would you prefer we return to homeworld empty-handed yet again?" Naz lowered his head in deference. "No, Captain." "Tractor beam engaged," Zenthar announced. "Target vessel secured." The small research ship, dwarfed by the Phyrexian warship, was drawn inexorably into the Sovereign Claw's main hangar bay. Security teams assembled, weapons charged, as the airlock cycled. Captain Dryak observed the operation from the bridge, watching through the ship's internal surveillance system. The human vessel's hatch opened after minimal coercion from the security team. A slender figure emerged slowly, hands raised. Dr. Elena Torres, though the Phyrexians didn't yet know her name, wore a standard coalition research uniform, her dark hair pulled back tightly, her expression remarkably calm given the circumstances. "Interesting," Dryak murmured. "No resistance." 4 hours later, Elena sat in an interrogation chamber, wrists bound to the metal table before her. The room was deliberately cold, a standard tactic when dealing with warm-blooded species. Captain Dryak entered with Lieutenant Naz, studying their captive with undisguised curiosity. "You have entered restricted Phyrexian territory," Dryak stated without preamble. "Identify yourself and state your purpose." Elena regarded him with steady brown eyes. "Dr. Elena Torres, xenobiologist with the Coalition Science Corps. And according to the Galactic Boundary Commission's recent rulings, this sector is neutral territory pending arbitration." She paused, then added, "Your presence here is as unauthorized as mine, Captain." Dryak's scales rippled with annoyance. "You're well informed for a simple scientist. All Coalition research vessels receive updated navigational and diplomatic briefs," Elena replied. "Standard procedure. And what exactly were you researching so far from your Coalition's protection?" Elena hesitated, weighing her response. "Particle anomalies. This region experiences unique gravitational fluctuations that affect subspace communications. My work focuses on developing more stable communication methods in affected zones." Dryak circled the table slowly. "Communications research with military applications." "With scientific applications," Elena corrected. "Though I suppose any technology can be weaponized by those inclined to do so." "Search her vessel thoroughly," Dryak ordered Naz. "I want every piece of equipment cataloged and analyzed." As Naz departed, Elena's gaze tracked the room systematically, noting the ventilation ducts, the subtle shimmer of the force field at the door, the pattern of guard rotations visible through the small observation window. Her seemingly casual observations were anything but. "You're wasting valuable resources, Captain," she said evenly. "I'm not a military operative. My capture violates at least 3 interspecies treaties and the diplomatic repercussions." "Spare me your threats," Dryak interrupted. "The nearest coalition outpost is days away at maximum speed. By then, we'll have extracted whatever useful intelligence you possess and departed." Elena tilted her head. "And if I possess no useful intelligence?" Dryak's mouth parts twitched. "Then you'll be valuable in other ways. The Biological Research Division always welcomes new subjects." Hours passed. Elena was moved to a holding cell, a small compartment with a hard sleeping platform and minimal sanitation facilities. She counted steps as they led her through the corridors, noted junctions and access panels, listened to the subtle rhythmic thrumming of the ship's engines. Lieutenant Naz returned to the bridge, visibly unsettled. "Captain, the human's vessel contains exactly what she claimed: research equipment, specialized sensors, communication devices, nothing overtly military." Dryak's scales darkened with frustration. "There must be something." "There is one unusual element," Naz continued. "Her ship's computer contains extensive technical data on Phyrexian vessel architecture, propulsion systems, and life support configurations, far more detailed than publicly available information." Dryak leaned forward. "So she is a spy, or precisely what she claims," offered Science Officer Kelvin, speaking up for the first time. The oldest Phyrexian on the bridge, Kelvin's scales had faded to a pale blue-gray with age. "I've reviewed her credentials. Dr. Elena Torres is indeed a recognized xenobiologist, with published research on interspecies communication and environmental adaptation. However, her specialization is specifically in hostile environment survival for both humans and non-humans." "Meaning?" Dryak demanded. "Meaning," Kelvin explained patiently, "that her research necessarily involves understanding the life support requirements of various species, including Phyrexians. Her knowledge isn't military intelligence, it's scientific expertise." Dryak dismissed this with a gesture. "Her knowledge remains valuable, regardless of its origin." Continue the interrogation. In her cell, Elena methodically tested her restraints, then abandoned the effort and instead lay back on the hard platform, eyes closed but mind racing. 26 hours since her capture, 2 meal cycles, 4 guard changes. She had counted 14 distinct crew members, noted variations in their posture and movements that suggested at least 3 different castes within the Phyrexian hierarchy. The ship's ventilation carried subtle odors: ozone from the engine compartment, the mineral tang of coolant fluid, the distinctive scent of Phyrexian biological processes. From these and other clues, she was gradually building a mental map of the vessel. The cell door slid open. Lieutenant Naz entered, accompanied by 2 guards and Science Officer Kelvin. "Dr. Torres," Kelvin addressed her directly, "your expertise has been noted. The captain believes you might serve better as a consultant than a prisoner." Elena sat up slowly. "Consultant? Your research on environmental adaptation is known to me," Kelvin continued. "The captain has authorized me to discuss a technical matter with you, in exchange for improved accommodations." "I'm listening," Elena replied, careful to maintain a neutral expression. Kelvin gestured, and the guard stepped back. "Our long-range sensors have detected unusual radiation patterns ahead. They match the phenomena you were researching, and there is concern about potential effects on our systems." Elena considered this new information. Particle anomalies can indeed affect ship functions, particularly in vessels using quantum field propulsion systems, which, if I'm not mistaken, yours does. Kelvin's eyes widened slightly. "You recognize our propulsion signature. The harmonic frequency is distinctive," Elena explained, "and the resonance vibration carries through your hull structure in a specific pattern." Basic environmental observation. A subtle alarm tone sounded throughout the ship before Kelvin could respond. The guards tensed, hands moving to their weapons. "Engineering to bridge," came a panicked voice over the communication system. Coolant pressure rising in the primary reactor. Automated systems failing to respond. The ship lurched suddenly, throwing them against the walls. Emergency lighting activated as the main illumination flickered and died. "What's happening?" Naz demanded into his communicator. "Unknown malfunction," came the response. "Possibly related to the radiation field we're entering. Critical systems are beginning to fail ship-wide." Elena steadied herself against the wall. "Your coolant regulation systems are vulnerable to the particular quantum fluctuations in this region," she stated matter-of-factly. "Without proper shielding modifications, reactor containment will fail within hours." Kelvin stared at her. "You predicted this. It's why I was here," Elena replied, "studying the anomaly to develop countermeasures." She met the science officer's 4 eyes directly. "I can help you, but not as a prisoner." As alarms continued to blare and the ship shuddered around them, Naz and Kelvin exchanged looks of uncertainty. The power dynamic had shifted faster than anyone had anticipated, and Elena Torres, supposedly helpless captive, was suddenly the most valuable person aboard the Sovereign Claw. Captain Dryak's scales had faded to a sickly gray-green as he surveyed the emergency reports flooding the command console. The Sovereign Claw drifted in the heart of the anomaly field, primary systems failing one by one. Engineering crews worked frantically to stabilize the reactor core, but without success. "Containment fields at 63% and falling," reported Engineering Chief Technos, his voice trained. "Estimate critical failure in under 5 hours, unless coolant pressure can be regulated." Dryak's secondary eyes narrowed while his primary pair remained fixed on the status displays. "And our options?" "Limited," Technos admitted. "The radiation field is interfering with our diagnostic systems. We cannot pinpoint the exact failure points." Science Officer Kelvin stood at the threshold of the bridge, Dr. Elena Torres beside him. No longer restrained, though still closely watched by Lieutenant Naz, the human's presence on the bridge caused a ripple of unease among the crew. "Captain," Kelvin began, "Dr. Torres has relevant expertise." She anticipated this very scenario. Dryak turned all 6 eyes toward the human. "Convenient timing for your research vessel to appear just before this crisis, Doctor." Elena met his gaze steadily. "Not convenience. Purpose. My mission was to map these anomalies and develop protective measures. The Coalition lost 2 science vessels to similar failures last year before understanding the nature of the threat. And you believe you can prevent our ship from suffering the same fate?" Dryak's tone conveyed skepticism, but desperation lurked beneath. "I studied these quantum fluctuations for 3 years, Elena replied. "Your ship's reactor cooling system uses a pressurized thallium-based solution, correct? The radiation causes molecular destabilization in that particular compound." Engineering Chief Technos chittered in surprise. "How could you possibly know the composition of our coolant?" "Because the resonance frequency affecting your systems is spectroscopically consistent with thallium decay," Elena explained. "The science is universal, regardless of whose technology employs it." Captain Dryak's scales shifted color several times as he considered his options. Pride warred with survival instinct. Finally, he gestured toward the engineering station. "Show us what you know, human." Elena moved to the console, studying the Vrexian interface with practiced efficiency. "I need access to your auxiliary systems and material fabrication units. The solution requires reconfiguring your coolant to resist quantum degradation. Granting a prisoner access to critical systems is against protocol," Naz objected. The ship shuddered violently, and warning lights flashed across multiple stations. "Containment field at 51%, Technos announced grimly. "Your protocols won't matter if we're all dead," Elena pointed out. "I need 3 things immediately: full system access, your best engineering team, and whatever raw materials you have for molecular restructuring." Dryak made his decision. "Granted. Technos, assign your team to assist Dr. Torres. Naz, maintain security but do not interfere." He fixed Elena with an intense stare. "Understand this, human. If I suspect sabotage rather than assistance, your execution will precede our destruction by mere moments." "Fair enough," Elena replied calmly. "Now let's save your ship." The next 3 hours passed in frantic activity. Elena worked alongside the Phyrexian engineers, her smaller human hands sometimes proving advantageous in accessing tightly configured components. She directed the reconfiguration of the coolant system, explaining each step to Technos and his team. "The molecular restructuring needs to happen in the auxiliary chamber first," she instructed. "We can't shut down the primary system without causing immediate containment failure." Technos, initially resistant to taking direction from a human, gradually developed a grudging respect for her technical knowledge. "Your understanding of our systems is unexpected," he admitted as they worked. "Adaptation is humanity's greatest strength," Elena replied, carefully calibrating a molecular resonator. "We study, we learn, we survive. It's what we do." On the bridge, Captain Dryack monitored their progress with Lieutenant Naz at his side. "I don't trust her," Naz muttered. "This could be sabotage disguised as assistance." Dryack's scales rippled thoughtfully. "Perhaps, but if she wanted us destroyed, she could simply do nothing and let the reactor fail." He tapped his clawed fingers against the armrest. "Something else troubles me." Security analyst Vex's report on Dr. Torres' records revealed an irregularity. "What kind of irregularity?" "Her published research specializes in environmental adaptation and survival systems, yet she possesses detailed knowledge of propulsion and power generation technologies." Dryack's eyes narrowed. Knowledge beyond what her credentials would suggest. Naz stiffened. "A coalition operative, then?" "Perhaps." Dryack turned his attention back to the status displays. "Or something else entirely." In the engineering section, Elena detected a subtle irregularity in the molecular restructuring process. The components weren't aligning properly, despite her careful calibrations. "This isn't right," she murmured, analyzing the readouts. "The resonance pattern is being actively disrupted." Technos leaned over to view the display. "System malfunction." "No." Elena's eyes narrowed. "Deliberate interference. Someone's sabotaging our repairs." She traced the disruption signal to its source, an auxiliary control panel where a junior engineer named Krivex worked. Elena observed him surreptitiously, noting how his movements didn't match the tasks he claimed to be performing. "Chief Technos," she said quietly, "I need to speak with you privately." In a corner of the engineering bay, Elena explained her suspicions. Technos' scales darkened with anger and disbelief. "Krivex is one of my most trusted engineers." "Then verify my accusations," Elena challenged. "Check the modifications he's made to the resonance calibrators." Technos did so, carefully reviewing the logs while Krivex continued working, unaware of the scrutiny. His posture stiffened as he discovered the evidence. "Sabotage," he confirmed grimly. "But why?" The answer came moments later when Security Lieutenant Naz arrived to check on their progress. Krivex's eyes darted nervously between Naz and the engineering team, a silent communication that Elena didn't miss. "It's both of them," she whispered to Technos. "Working together." Before Technos could respond, alarm sirens blared again. "Containment field at 38%, announced the automated system. "Critical failure imminent." Elena made a split-second decision. She triggered an emergency isolation protocol she had discovered in the ship's systems, sealing the engineering section and trapping everyone inside. "What are you doing?" Technos demanded. "Stopping them from finishing what they started," Elena replied, moving quickly to the main console. "Your lieutenant and engineer aren't trying to save this ship. They want it destroyed." Chaos erupted as Naz realized his cover was blown. He drew his weapon, but Technos was faster, tackling him to the deck. Krivex lunged for the control panel, but 2 other engineers restrained him. "Captain," Technos called over the communication system, "we have traitors aboard." Lieutenant Naz and Engineer Krivex have been sabotaging our repairs." On the bridge, Captain Dryak's scales paled with shock. "Explain." "The human discovered their interference," Technos replied. "They're attempting to ensure the reactor fails." Understanding dawned in Dryak's eyes. "The separatist faction," he hissed. "They've infiltrated my crew." With the saboteurs contained, Alina worked feverishly to undo the damage they had caused. The coolant modification procedure resumed, this time progressing smoothly. As the final adjustments were made, Alina monitored the containment field readings anxiously. 32%, 33, 35. The numbers began to climb slowly. "It's working," she announced, relief evident in her voice. By the time Captain Dryak arrived in engineering, flanked by loyal security officers, the containment field had stabilized at 60% and was continuing to improve. Naz and Krivex had been secured, their plot exposed. The separatist faction promised them advancement in the new order, Technos explained. After our unfortunate accident in disputed territory, the High Command would authorize military action against the Coalition, believing humans responsible for our destruction. Dryak turned to Alina, his posture subtly different, no longer the arrogant captor but something approaching respectful. "It seems we owe you our lives, Dr. Torres." "We're not safe yet," Alina cautioned. "The coolant modification is holding, but we need to exit this anomaly field within the next 12 hours before the effects become too severe for even the modified systems to handle." The captain nodded. "Navigation is plotting our course now." He hesitated, then continued. "Your capture was ill-advised. When we reach safe space, you will be returned to Coalition territory with appropriate diplomatic apologies. And compensation for my research vessel," Alina added firmly. A hint of the old arrogance flashed in Dryak's eyes, but he nodded. "Agreed." 3 days later, as the Sovereign Claw prepared to rendezvous with a Coalition border patrol, Alina stood in the observation lounge with Captain Dryak and Science Officer Kelvin. "There is something I still don't understand," Dryak admitted. "Your knowledge of our systems exceeded what any ordinary scientist should possess." Alina smiled slightly. "Before I was a xenobiologist, I was an engineer on Coalition emergency response vessels. We specialized in cross-species rescue operations, which required intimate knowledge of various propulsion and life support systems." "So you were never helpless," Kelvin observed. "No one is ever truly helpless," Alina replied. "Knowledge is a weapon that can't be taken away. It's humanity's greatest defense and our greatest strength." As the Coalition patrol ship came into view through the observation window, Dryak's scales shifted to a contemplative blue-green. "The Vrexian High Command has long underestimated humans," he said quietly. "We see your physical limitations, your fragile bodies, your short lives, your lack of natural defenses, and miss the true danger." "Which is?" Alina prompted. "Your adaptability. Your capacity to understand and manipulate the universe around you." Dryak turned all 6 eyes toward her. One supposedly helpless human captured by a warship turned the entire situation to her advantage and exposed a plot that might have triggered interspecies war. "We're survivors," Alina said simply. "It's what we do best." As she prepared to depart, the ship's communication system chimed with an incoming message from Vrexian High Command. Captain Dryak acknowledged, then turned to Alina with surprise evident in his posture. "It seems you're more than just a scientist, Dr. Torres. High Command has requested a formal diplomatic meeting with Coalition representatives. They specifically asked for you to participate." His mouthparts shifted in what might have been reluctant respect. "Perhaps your capture, unfortunate as it was, may lead to something unexpected." "That's another human quality, Captain," Alina replied with a smile. "We have a knack for turning disasters into opportunities." As she boarded the Coalition vessel, leaving the Vrexian warship behind, Alina reflected on the strange turn of events. Captured, threatened, then pivotal in averting both a disaster and potentially a war, all because the Vrexians had made the fundamental mistake of assuming that a lone human was helpless. It was a mistake few species made twice.